Ding, 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 everyone. Hello and good afternoon. It is so good to have you here. My name is Allie Light, and I am coming to you after an incredible weekend at Okeechobee Music Festival. This was their 10-year anniversary. All right, 10 years ago, for the first time, I attended my very first Okeechobee. That was before I even moved to Florida. This is where I met my long time ago boyfriend who facilitated my move to Orlando. And so this 10-year reunion had so many realizations, reflections, and overall understandings about me, who I am, my friendships, relationships, and also the shadow world of festivals, substance use, and ding, 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 the topic of today, the consequences of the hookup culture. All right. I have a lot to share today. I was originally planning on recording all of this on a teleprompter, but then me reading and talking is just not the same thing. So I have some notes here that I will be reading to make sure that I cover everything that I want to say. And so to open this thing up, I want to read you something as going to be my opening into this discussion. All right. So hookup culture promised freedom, but left people feeling empty and more alone than ever. We normalize detachment, yet we glorify no strings attached. But the body doesn't work that way. You can't share energy, touch, and intimacy and expect to feel nothing. The real question is, are we actually free or are we just disconnected? All right. And so this conversation is inspired by things that are happening in my personal relationships and also what I am observing from my sisters around me and what's taking place. All right. I'm super proud to say that two of my sisters in the last couple weeks have ended their situationship, if you will, with those gentlemen that they were exploring intimacy with. And so I'm really proud for one of my girlfriends because she ended the dynamic because she realized that she wasn't being claimed to the fullness of her capacity and desire to surrender. All right. She was ready to surrender to this man. She was falling in love with him. They were having a really good time together, but something wasn't in alignment. And he even admitted that he wasn't emotionally available. All right. And so she went into this exploration with him, hoping that eventually things will change and sexuality and play and closeness will develop. And eventually there will be a thing. However, this is a younger man. He's in the poly field and he straight up told her that he wasn't available emotionally for a committed union. And so somewhere along the way, she realized, hey, I like him. I can see myself falling in love with him. And he's not ready to hold me at the depth of my desire. And so she took ownership of her desire and she ended things with him. Although it was a lot of pain, a lot of heartache, a lot of tears, a lot of crying, she did what she felt was right for her and her timeline. All right. And so I am super proud of her because I knew how much she liked this guy. I knew the guy. There was actually another thing happening with the guy where the guy was reaching out to me to try to create another connection while he's literally hooking up with my friend. All right, so we're going to go a little bit deeper into this conversation of men and girlfriends and men trying to lure in to your friends group. All right, so that's number one. That's girlfriend number one. Upon coming back from this festival, my second girlfriend, who I'm also really proud of, has denied her casual intimacy with her situationship guy. All right, they've been hooking up on and off. And she told me that something came over her and she realized, why am I giving my time, my energy, my body? Why am I opening the most sacred place within me to this man who doesn't bring value, who doesn't claim me, who doesn't serve me? He's not holding her in any containment. He's not texting back. He's reaching out once a month when it's convenient for him. And then they hang out for a little bit and he wants to have sex. And so she usually would. And so this time hello, spring equinox eclipse, something taking place, she said no. And she gave it to him. The wrath came out and she said what she had on her heart, but she was afraid to say for the longest time. And so this is the theme of the hookup culture, is where men, I'm going to speak in these polarities because it's generally men who enjoy these casual interactions with multiple women. And it's women who feel like, yeah, I like him, I want to connect with him. And they feel perhaps that she has to put out sexually in order to keep that connection. But that's false. That's an illusion. Sex alone doesn't maintain connection or depth or intimacy in a relationship. Sex can be a fun, playful thing to do in a moment, but what we disregard is what happens afterwards and how it affects the body, the emotions, and the overall mental state of well-being. All right, so I'm gonna read some facts for you guys here. 78% of women and 72% of men report having a regretful feelings after the hookup. All right, more hookups equals more symptoms of depression and anxiety, low self-worth and emotional confusion, feelings of embarrassment, being used, or losing self-respect. Ooh. And then finally, we have loneliness and emotional emptiness, which is linking us to isolation, boredom, and disconnection. All right, here's your hookup culture. Physical intimacy without emotional safety creates emotional fragmentation. All right, even though consciously we're like, yay, I can do it, I can just fuck and keep it casual, the body, the womb, and the heart don't work like that. And this is why I believe my work with conscious sex education, Tantra, teaching about consent and boundaries is so important, like more than ever right now, because these are the tools that we have to know, number one, practice, number two, and embody, number three, in order to change the paradigm of future relating. All right. And so if you are here and you are listening, you're going to get an incredible tool by the end of this conversation that will transform the way that you see relational dynamics and the way that you choose who you share your intimacy with. All right. So stick to the end. All right. Let's see what else we have here. Relational consequences. Hookup culture has an ability to make it difficult forming deep relationships. People report having intimacy anxiety, fear of commitment, and confusion about what is love versus what is sex. All right, these are really conversational topics because have you ever considered in your mind, do you understand the difference between love and sex? Can you pinpoint in your life where somebody made love to you versus where somebody just took sex from you? Okay, very different. Then we have cycle of emotional detachment. No strings attached often becomes avoidance of vulnerability and emotional unavailability. Just like I said from my friend whose man was like, yeah, I'm emotionally unavailable. So he's available to fuck. He's available to spend time with her. He's available to go out, to play party and enjoy her company and presence. But he's not available for emotional vulnerability and support and care. All right, that should tell you enough of something. And then communication breakdown, more texting, less real connection. All right, I don't know about you, but like if I care about somebody, I will either call them or I will leave a voice memo. Okay, texting, especially if we're like arguing or trying to make plans, doesn't actually carry the voice, the frequency, and the tonality of the message that you could be sending. So for me, not a fan of texting. I like to call. And then another communication breakdown, we have things like ghosting, ambiguity, and unclear expectations. All right, I want to talk about this one right here, ghosting, ambiguity, and unclear expectations. This is something that I recently experienced with one of the men in my field. Every time I'm seeing him in person, he's like a lover boy, huggy, touchy, feely, picking me up, twirling me around, like, let's hang out, like, come to Bali, come stay in my apartment, here's this, here's that. Like, when I'm with him, he makes me feel like on top of the world, like he's gonna do all these things for me. And then once we separate, it's ghost town. Like, I don't hear from him. There is no follow through. There is no making of the future plans. There is nothing. All right. And this is a theme that I observed of men disconnected from their hearts and their power. All right. So when we speak from the chakra of your throat, your vocal center, and when your vocal center isn't connected to your heart, which is your truth, authenticity, vulnerability, and then your power, which is your abdomen, your solar plexus, your power, your confidence, your determination, your strength. So when these chakras are not connected to the throat releases wrath, lying, manipulation, and control tactics. All right. So I've experienced from this man, like all of these things that in the moment made me feel so close to him, made me trust him, made me want to spend more time with him and open to him. But then when we separate, I don't hear from him. And so in that, like it said here, this ghosting and ambiguity and unclear expectations, it kind of fades. You know, so if you're a man and you're hearing this, check in on yourself. Because if you're doing this, like if you're spending time with women and you're overpromising and you're oversharing, but you're under-delivering, that's bad juju on your psyche, on your karma, on your consciousness. And what's interesting, this same guy that I'm speaking about I have 3 other girlfriends who also met him. And they literally said, like, there's something off with him. At first, we couldn't, like, put our finger on what it was because he's, like, so sweet and nice and amazing and giving when he's in person. But we were like, something's off. And so over the weeks of times going by, it has come to my illumination that this man does these things with all the girls that he meets. He makes them feel super friendly. He gives them a whole bunch of free product. He tries to get him on his sales team. He tries to be all sweet, flirty, inviting the girls to travel and come visit him. But at the end, that's just all talk. There is no actual follow through on any of that. And so what I've observed is this is his game. This is how this man seduces women into his field. But the thing is, it's not sustainable because conscious women will eventually like feel into it and be like, what the fuck, dude? Like, that ain't right. And so that's a little example from my timeline on that. Let's talk about dating apps. Dating apps linked to poor body image, increased anxiety and depression. And the swiping culture creates a disposable mindset and endless comparison. And the worst part is that there's this illusion of options. Like just sitting there and swiping, like if you believe in like love of your life, if you believe that God has a destined soulmate person for you, imagine like being in a world where we're swiping. Like you could have just swiped on the love of your life and you would never know. So to me, there is this like disconnection between how I believe love finds us versus what my actual experience in this current 2026 reality is. And it's confusing. I'm not a fan. And then we have social and behavioral risks. Unwanted sex, 77% of hookup culture admit to having unwanted sexual engagements. Pressure and performance anxiety. All right, this is something from my second friend who would hook up with this guy. And she said sometimes like I felt pressure to having sex with him because I did not want to lose our connection. And so that's probably something that a lot of women feel like, oh, I gotta put out in order to keep him in my field. Like, can you imagine if you're a man listening, how awful it must be to be in such a field where like women feel like they have to sexually glorify you in order to be in your field, like what are you feeding? Like what kind of field are you as a man creating that women around you have that type of association? All right, so something to consider. And then, of course, we have STDs and risky behaviors. And you know, STDs are not just physical. I also say sexually transmitted demons. If you're hooking up with somebody that's also hooking up with a whole bunch of other bodies, what do you think is going to happen to your psyche, to your emotional and energetic field? All right. In like the mysteries of the womb, the teaching is that a man stays in a woman's womb up to 7 years. Up to 7 years. And what that means, not like he's like physically stuck in her pussy, but like he's in her psyche. He's in her field. Okay. Especially if she's like ingested his semen. Like you're literally becoming this other man. So what qualities are you exchanging with him, with her? Do you consider that? And if you're a man, do you consider where do you leave your seed? Where's your seed? Your seed carries your proteins, your DNA, all of the information to make another copy of you. It has all of the like antioxidants and vitamins and minerals. Like your seed is the most potent fluid that your body creates and generates. And so this is something I teach on my Tantra page about male empowered sexuality, semen control, ejaculation control. If this is of your interest, you can go to my Sacred Muse Tantra page and you can look at the videos on those topics. But here the conversation is like, whoa, as a man, where have I left my seed? In whose house? In which socks? In which women? In which womb? Okay. And if you're a man, like women are very psychic. Okay. Psycho and psychic. Yes. Yes. Especially when you fuck with us the wrong way. Yes. Yes. We can get psychic and psycho. Your fault. Okay. Because women learned love, which like sex supposed to be love. Penetration, penis in the vagina is supposed to be the act of love. So when we're no longer making love through the act of penetrative sex and we're just taking, what do you think it's doing to the psyche of your woman? Like if you're a man and penis and vagina were designed to come together and make love, I don't know what that is. But instead of making love to her, you're using her for self-gratification. Don't be surprised that there's emotions, psychic attacks, and unpleasant energies coming your way days, weeks, months after. Okay, this is more a spiritual dimensional understanding. All right. And then deeper cultural consequences, people struggling to differentiate between lust and intimacy. All right, like we want fast food. We want quick sex. We want easily satisfying sexual experiences. Physically, but then what does your heart want? Like, what does your soul crave? All right, difference between lust and intimacy. And then we have attention and care. There's big difference. And then access versus devotion. All right. A lot of men want lust. They want to feed their dick. They want to feed the lust. They want attention. Oh yeah, I got with the girl. I banged her 3 times yesterday. Like it's all ego. And then they want access. They want validation. They want access. They want to know he's hot shit because she keeps coming back. And she keeps hoping there's going to be more because she's opening her body to him. So can you see how fucked up our culture is where women feel pressured to exposing their most intimate, vulnerable self to men in order to get his attention? And she thinks he's caring for her, but really no, he's just giving her attention and maybe very little value, maybe a little dinner, maybe a little car ride, maybe a little drugs I don't know. So she thinks she's getting care, when in reality, no, he's just getting attention so he can get closer to her. Okay? And then access versus devotion. I recently realized, like, even though I crave for this like leadership man, like I want a man who leads, I realized like I fucking lead. I lead my own life and I lead damn well. All right. And so like my lover in the past, I was like trying to have him be this leader, but I realized he's not ever going to be a leader because he's a devotee. Okay. And devotees are in service to love, to women. And in fact, men that are devotees are the most sweetest, kindest, most generous, most serving men I have met. In fact, at Okeechobee, my friend and I went. It was 2 girls. We were getting our camp set up. And I saw this man with a truck. He was like setting up a whole big campsite. And we ended up making friends with him. I asked him to help us with our tents. And for the rest of the weekend, he embodied a devotee. Okay, imagine 2 tantrikas and a man from the West Florida lands. He became a devotee. Anything we needed, he was helpful with. He started bringing us gifts, shoes, clothes. He gave us some substances. Like, he was so sweet, so kind. And the cutest thing, at the end of the festival, we had a integration circle. He wrote like a long ass feedback and reflections for both myself and my friend. And I never heard a man so vulnerably see me. He was like things like, oh, and Allie, you're like this walking graceful castle. You're so strong and a little intimidating, but I'm inspired by you and I want to keep learning more from you. Like, whoa, he got vulnerable. I actually want to have him send me what he wrote because like, I need to reflect on that. I rarely have a man that shares his feelings vulnerably around how he receives me. So that's something to work for, gentlemen. All right. And then we have disconnect between men and women. Women more likely to feel regret. Men more likely to detach emotionally, which creates polarization, misunderstanding, and overall feelings of resentment. All right? This is not a cute foundation to be building relationships with, okay? Misunderstanding, resentment, hurt, feeling used, feeling abandoned. Like, y'all want to feel that way? Like, because if you're supporting hookup culture, then that's basically what you're feeding the field into. All right. And then we have rise in loneliness. Even with more access to people, loneliness is increasing. Hookup culture contributes to emotional exhaustion and lack of meaningful bonds. Because at this point, people don't actually know how to communicate from a place of love. They communicate from a place of sex, which wants to take and wants to feel lust and pleasure. Physical sex alone is not satisfying when you are a mature and grown individual. I thought like in my early 20s that was gonna work, but it actually never worked for me. I've always been a relationship person, and in fact, prior to walking into the field of Tantra and Ista and polyamory, I've always been monogamous. And when I'm with a partner, I'm devoted. I'm there. I want to be there. When I'm claimed, when we have a container. All right. And with this poly world, what I've observed is men don't want to create a container because they want their freedom. But this is something that they get wrong, because in reality, freedom comes with responsibility. But y'all want freedom without responsibility. And then y'all complain why crazy witches are coming after you. So, we never had more access to each other, and yet we never felt more alone. The illusion of freedom, is it liberation or is it avoidance of intimacy? The body remembers what the mind tries to ignore. Casual doesn't always mean consequence free. All right? Casual hookup does not mean it's consequence free. There's a lot of consequences. STDs, pregnancies, crazy ex or current partners that you didn't know about, intense soul-body attachment connection, and an overall emotional drop and pain and regrets. Why? Like, we can just self-pleasure. You can just go masturbate. But if you want the body, if you want the warmth and the softness, and you want to be seen, you want to be heard, you want to be respected, perhaps you actually want to build something. Perhaps you actually like understand the point of relationship and the union. Well, you're not going to manifest that if you're still hooking up. Okay? There needs to be a clear intention for why we're sharing sexual energy with others. And I think that's part of maturity. That's part of being conscious. That's part of sacred sexuality, tantric sexuality, part of sacred intimacy. You know, when I teach tantric intimacy, people think like, oh yeah, I'm teaching them how to have tantric sex. No, intimacy is actually like emotional, conversational. It's actually tenderness and care for one's soul and heart. Intimacy takes place in the heart. But if all you're doing is thinking with your genitals, you can't even access your heart. Okay? And so too many options equals no one feels chosen. This was the problem with the first girlfriend that I shared. She was ready to be claimed. She wanted to be chosen. This man couldn't say I love you. He couldn't give her a frame. He couldn't put her into a container in which she could wildly open up and be this blossoming wild goddess that he wants her to be. So y'all men are really missing out on the depth, the beauty, and the connection that you could have with a woman by not putting her into a frame, by not committing to her fully, by playing games and being a fuckboy. And over time, that only disconnects you from your own self. It disconnects you from your own body. Because let me remind you something. Men and women, we have internal animus and anima, okay? The male and the female energy. And so you may not have known this, but the females, embodied females, naturally, comfortably express their male energy, the animus, all right? Whereas men, even though they're masculine embodied, they more naturally express their anima, which is their female energy. This is why a lot of men are little bitches. And this is why a lot of women act like warriors, because we have tapped into that inner pole. All right, so for men, you're just kidding yourself. Hookup culture, hooking up with girls, you think you're getting validation. No, you're just accumulating more pain body and more hurt. And if you want a constant partner and lovership, then you shall also be available for the responsibility that that carries. All right? And so people want to feel chosen. People want to feel safe. People want to feel seen, and people want to feel valued. I want to be chosen, seen, valued, and safe. Okay? The best sex happens when all of those things are present. Because let me tell you what happens in the mind of a woman that doesn't have those things, okay? Let's say this is a hookup culture, okay? And the woman is just hooking up with the man. So she's not feeling chosen, you know, because he didn't say, do you want to be my girlfriend? Can we be a thing? She doesn't feel safe because maybe he's like, oh, I don't want to use a condom. She's not sure where she stands in his, so she's not emotionally safe. She's not physically safe. Seen, does she feel seen? Perhaps she feels seen in the moment because he wants her body, he wants to touch her, so she feels seen, but she doesn't feel seen at the core of her soul for who she is. And then we have valued. How can a man express his sense of value for a moment for a woman when his ultimate goal is only sexual penetration and physical lustful experience. And so in that space, what happens, woman dissociates from all of those things. And she drops simply down into her pussy, and the whole act becomes physical, lower chakra based experience. And what's confusing is that sex still feels good. Like the rubbing of the genitals, the mechanical rubbing of the groin, like that feels good. So she may still experience pleasure. But on the other spectrum, actually, if she's already having some uterine womb issues, tightness, cysts, fibroids, that experience will actually make it worse. And what's cool to notice for women, like our body is so intuitive, like your pussy pH will tell you everything you need to know about a guy. And what I say is a question to ask for every woman. Ladies, this one is for you. Before you hook up with the guy, you need to ask yourself this question. Is he worth fucking up my pH for? Not guarantee that he will, but is this guy worth it to fuck up your pH? Because vaginal pH is very sensitive to all things, okay? And as a woman, you should know what your healthy pH balance looks like and smells like. All right, and so men, like the use of condoms, if he has intercourse with other men, like if his penis goes in and out of other vaginas and then it goes into yours, you're bringing that woman bacteria into your body. Why? Ew. No. Please don't. Okay, so that's messing with your physical body. And I'm not even mentioning transport of STDs, sexual transmitted demons, energetic, which I already spoke about, but then also physical, chlamydia, gonorrhea, herpes, whatever, things that could come up. So I'm illuminating the responsibility that is required for us to mature into when it comes to our sexual experiences. And ladies, you need to work on your self-worth and to know that to the right man, your sex is a bonus. Your sex is something to conquer, to fight for, to express commitment and devotion and be in service to. So when you just go and you give it out, what are you teaching these men? And the sad part is, if a woman, like, for example, this is actually how I feel. Like, I've had a man that I was really into, and I straight up told him, I was like, I'm not hooking up with you unless we're dating to get to know each other for marriage and procreation. I'm not interested in hooking up with you. I'm sure you have a big dick and we'll have a great sex, but what do I get out of it afterwards? So unless we're dating to get to know each other for marriage, I'm not opening up sexual portal for you. And part of me noticed how I felt like, ooh, like, did I just miss a chance with a good guy? I was like, oh, here's a catch. Like this thought of like, I need to put out in order to get his attention, in order to be noticed and liked. Like, I was like, that's not even my thought. We need to like tap it out of here, because that's how a lot of women fall into the trap. Okay. And it's something that we have to become aware of. All right. So thank you everyone for tuning in, for staying for so long as you have, because I am now going to bring forth a solution and a tool for you to use in your life, in your hookup dynamics moving forward, that will support you in doing things with more presence, more awareness, and more intention. All right. And so ding, 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 here I have a little card that I made. This is my business card. And on the back of it, I have a conscious intimacy conversation prompt. All right, this is not mine. This comes from ISTA, International Institute of Temple Arts. And this is something that they teach as part of more open poly community for us to do things consciously. All right. So you can remember this conversation as spread the love. All right. And so the first letter stands for sexual transmitted disease. All right. So first conversation would be like, hey, before we share any more intimacy or connection, I want to just have this conversation with you to make sure that we have enough understanding and clarity, whether we have alignment with each other or not. Literally, that's all it is. It's about alignment. Okay? So, S, do you have any STDs? When was the last time you've been checked? And do you have anything to report? This is also a good question for vaccinations. After COVID, I know there's a lot of people who don't want to hook up with others who had any sort of COVID vaccines. And so this health conversation will really support you in getting that first base information out of the way. All right. So spread, letter P stands for protection and pregnancies. Two questions here. Number one, are we using protection? Condoms, female condoms, contraceptives, and then pregnancy. Do you want to have kids? How do you feel if we get pregnant? What do we do if we get pregnant? All right, this is heavy because this is responsibility. Many men don't want to talk about this. They don't want to talk about what would happen if I get a woman pregnant. Y'all just want to stick your dick inside of us and make us into your cum bucket while we have to face the consequences of unwanted abortions and unwanted pregnancies and failure to fucking have a pregnancy and then having a miscarriage. Do you know how painful those things are for women? While y'all men carry no consequences for pregnancy, we carry all of it. And guess what? While a woman can get pregnant around 6 days out of the month, y'all men are 24/7 able to make a child. So why are men not on birth control? Ding, ding, ding. That's another situation that y'all want to look into. Okay? So that's really important. All right? So that conversation alone can really tell you what the guy is at. All right? So next we have letter R, and R stands for relationships. What is your current relationship status? Okay? Style and agreements. And the question that I really like, is there somebody who thinks they are in a relationship with you? Okay? Ding, ding, ding. A lot of men, I love being in situationships. But if you're in a situationship with a woman for many, many years and you keep fucking her and she feels attached to you, guess what? In her mind, you're in a relationship. And if you haven't asked her to be your girlfriend or to be your wife, in under 2 years, first of all, you're an asshole. You're wasting her time. Okay? And second of all, you're still in a fucking relationship, even if you don't think about it. Okay, over 2 years, y'all should be engaged. Or you break up and you go find someone else. Like Russian women, you have 9 months to propose to me. After that, you move on. Usually like 3 to 9 months, you know if this is a person you want to be with. Okay, 3 months, no sex, get to know each other, and then see if you're all still liking each other. Okay? And then we have E. This is where a lot of men get really hung up. Okay, this is where my first girlfriend, whose guy was emotionally unavailable, he couldn't get past this answer. Because the question stands, what does this connection mean to you? What does it mean to you if we were to hook up and have sex? Okay, for some people, it may be like, whatever, I got my dick wet, I'm good to go. For somebody, it might be like, wow, I just opened the love portal with you and I saw the timeline with you and we had past lives together and we're going to have kids in this lifetime. What does it mean to you? And a lot of men will have a hard time responding to that because y'all don't put sex and emotional meaning into the same container. Whereas women, we need the emotional meaning in order to truly open up to you. Okay, so that prompt is really important. Spread, so we had SPRE, and then we have A, which stands for aftercare. I love this. This is one of my favorite prompts that I've personally learned. How can I support you after we share intimacy? All right, little side note example. At this festival, I've shared some intimacy with another man. We did not have this conversation. We didn't have sex. It was like PG intimacy. But part of me was waiting to hear from him and to see what he would say after our connection. And so before he left the campsite, he left some substances that he wanted to pick up. And so his message on Monday to me is like, hey, Allie, can I please stop by to get my things? So he just wants to come back and pick up his drugs? Okay, bro, I just spent 6 hours in a K portal with you all over each other. All you care about is to come back and pick up your drugs? Hey, how's it going? How you feeling? Hey, it was really good connecting with you. Hey, thank you for inviting me to your campsite. Hey, thank you for sharing your energy. Thank you for sharing your body. I had a good time with you. None of that. He just wants to come and pick up his drugs, okay? So in this case, my aftercare would have been like, yeah, I would like to actually sit down and have a reflection on our conversations, on our time together. Like, I understand we were on drugs, so we didn't have this conversation ahead of time. I just want to check in to see how you're feeling. Okay? There was none of that. So that tells me already that this guy needs the card. And then aftercare can also be like, hey, I want a text message. I want a phone call. I want to go to breakfast afterwards. Or I want you to just text me back and check in on me and see how I'm doing. Literally, like, you as a person have to know what your aftercare needs are, and then you share that with your partner. All right? And then ding, 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 we have the last one here. Letter D stands for decision. All right? Once you have all of these things covered, you can now make a conscious decision whether or not you want to continue in engaging with this individual. All right? And so if the answer is yes, D stands for desires, fears, and boundaries. Okay? When we talk about intimacy, it's important to note that there's so many ways to share intimacy beyond sex and penetration. Also, the word sex means different things to different people. Whereas for some people, sex is penetrative sex, penis and the vagina. For others, making out is also sex. Oral sex is also sex. Cuddling naked is also sex for some people. So you might want to get clarity around what you want. And what I really like about this is that it forces you to like really tune into what you want to experience. Maybe like you had this conversation and the person is like, oh, I don't want kids. I'm not interested. Maybe you don't want to have sex with them because that puts you in the position of potentially getting pregnant. And let's just be clear, condoms and birth control are not 100%. Okay? So knowing that you don't want to get pregnant by this guy, but maybe you're still open and are available for intimacy, maybe you can have a naked cuddle party instead. Okay, so good things to know. And then fears and boundaries. Boundaries can be things like, okay, maybe we do oral sex, but no physical penetration. Or maybe we just make out with our clothes on. Or maybe no anal sex. You know, whatever your boundaries are, like, you can speak that. And what I also like about this is fears. Vulnerably sharing your fears. Like, my fear after this hookup is that this guy is a douchebag and I just gave him 5 hours of my time and all he cares about is picking up his drugs. Like, that's my fear. Fear of not being appreciated, fear of being rejected, fear of being abandoned. Those are all really fucking valid, you guys. And when we start tuning into that and being vulnerable with each other, our sexuality will transform. And this is where I will bring you to Sacred Muse Tantra, where it's more advanced, sacred sexuality content. Okay? Because we can't do Tantra without being conscious. Okay? In fact, Tantra And tantric sex, which is energetic, is really delightful. And you can avoid all these STDs and pregnancy fears by having tantric sex with a man. Okay, but those tantric gigolos and the medicine men who walk around like, I got a little baggie of goodies, like, what do you want? You know, they just try to like drug you up and dissociate you so then he can fuck you. Like, we gotta watch out, ladies, for these fuck boys that are walking around with their egoic persona, with their drug pouch or their medicine pouch or whatever. Like, the thing to really look out for is his consciousness connected to his heart or to his dick or to money? But if consciousness is connected to money, then he's also operating out of his dick. It's hard to find a man who's connected to his heart and connected to his money. All right, there is like this triangle of men. It's like gym, money, emotional stability. If he goes to the gym and he has emotional stability, he ain't got money. If he got money and he got emotional stability, he ain't going to the gym. If he's going to the gym and he got money, he ain't got emotional stability. And so ding, 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 you have that. And so it is my intention that in this video, you got to explore a little bit deeper about the hookup culture and its side effects on the relational chapters and how we perceive each other moving forward. At the end of the day, we need each other. Women and men, we're not separate. We are part of this collective. And as we awaken and this world shifts, we're shifting with it. But it's one thing to get swallowed up and become unconscious with the flow of the societal currents. But it's the other thing to awaken out of the matrix, to see the distortions, to feel the discomfort and the pain of things that are not working, and to choose to do things differently, to choose to relate with more love, with more intention, with more consciousness, and to learn, spread the love prompt so that you are prepared next time you meet somebody delightful that you want to connect with. All right. And so thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I felt super excited to bring this topic to you. Please let me know if you have any questions, any comments, or if you want me to be a mediator to have this conversation with you and your partner or your future potential partner. Because one thing that's really good is to have somebody who can hold you through it. Okay? Because if you go on this emotional level and you ask the man, well, what does it mean for you emotionally? And he gets stuck, ding, 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 you have your answer. All right? So I would be super happy to support that mediation conversation for you both. And until we see each other next time, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. And till we see each other again. Ciao.